G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is part 4 of the Yak 55M build series. In this video I am going to be going over some more of the electronics layout and cover what I've gotten up to at the moment. In the last video I mentioned that off camera I would be doing some things to the aircraft while not filming, just purely to save on filming time. I have come across a few issues. It's not so much an issue, but something that I'm going to have to rectify or work around or find a solution to. One of them being, in the last video I showed that the 3D printed battery tray that I had made, that's been shot in the bin. I've found a few little issues that are going to hinder progress and accessibility as well with the canopy, so I've come up with something else for it. The other issue, now off camera I have gotten into installing some of the electronics. So I've stuck down the receiver and the satellite. I've installed the throttle and rudder servo. At the moment I've just put 2 screws in for the throttle servo. I haven't really bothered with servo horns yet. That's not necessary. I might change out the servo horn here. It might be a little bit too big, I'm not too sure. But I'll worry about that when it gets close to installing the pull setup. The issue I've I'll show you what I've done with the battery so far. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a problem. While it did somewhat work out to be good in the beginning, that is pointless. So what I have done is I have 3D printed these little brackets here. Basically they're an S shape like so, they mount to a bit of the wood there. And just give me a second, I've just got to move this mount. Sorry if it's a little bit shaky. So if we look here, so we've got the mounts and they're just held in by a screw, and I've got foam in there just to pack it down. So my initial plan of a removable tray isn't going to work as good as I wanted. So basically, you probably can't see too well, I have foam on the sides and around there to hold them in place, and then these brackets here I've got to put a little bit of foam there just to cushion the area. That's going to hold the batteries in place, and it's just a case of undoing the screw that folds down and I can remove the battery if needed. So that's what that is there. Now the fuel tank in here, that's just in there temporarily. I am not using this tank. I will be using a Dubro tank, purely just because I am running OS GT, sorry if that's shaky, because I'm running an OS GT33 engine. It obviously runs on 2-stroke unleaded and not a glow fuel, so I need to use specific fuel line and a specific fuel bung that goes into the tank. It will not work very well in that tank. So at the moment that tank is just in there for the moment. I'll take it out later. I'll probably have to alter this part here that holds the tank in place for the Dubro tank, because it's a different shape and it'll be a different size, so I'll have to do that. So the next dilemma I have come across now is the elevator servo situation. Now this model requires 2 servos for the elevator, and how they work is they mount in here on there, and the servo horn sticks out, so I've got to cut the covering out. So the servo horn sticks out there and the rod goes underneath. The problem I'm going to have is both servos will, because it's one either side, so you got one here and you've got one there. So essentially they will be both upside down and the servo horn poking out. The problem I'm going to have is they will essentially operate in the same direction because they're both upside down and facing the same direction. So when you move the stick, both will turn to the left or to the right, which means that one elevator will go up and the other one will go down, because it will then act like ailerons. So the problem I'm going to have now, I'm not sure if I can rectify this. I can hopefully, with my Spectrum radio, I can have the one elevator servo plugged into an auxiliary port or an auxiliary channel, and have that as an elevator, and then have it so it operates in the opposite direction. So when one servo goes this way, the other one goes that way. Or I might have to bite the bullet and use one of these. This is a servo reverser. Now, I'm personally not going to use this one. It is very old. It was out of an old model that unfortunately crashed. That's another story. So I don't think I will use that, because I want to use one that has a higher voltage rating. That way I don't have to worry about it burning out and then not having an elevator to control the model, because then that would prove disastrous. So that is the next issue. That's the issue I have at this point in time. So what I need to do now is get the elevator servos installed. However, I'm going to have to because I have a specific length fuselage, I've decided I'm going to make my own servo extension leads. I'm going to have a separate video how to do that. I will post that when I can. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it right here, and I will be back with the elevator and servo extension leads. Alright guys, I've made the servo extension leads. Now, I did have all intention of making a video, do it like a how-to video on making servo extension leads. However, I am still getting used to this new camera. It's a GoPro Hero 10 Black for those playing at home, and on the back screen is touchscreen, and I had everything all laid out and everything, and silly me, I basically managed to swipe across before I started recording, and I didn't realize I'd switched to photo mode, and I pushed the button thinking I'd started recording, and essentially I just took a photo of myself. So I was basically going blah 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 for about 20 minutes.
Blah 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 blah.
So there won't be a video on how to make servo extension leads. But what we'll do is we'll go over here and we will have a look at what I've done. So the elevator servos are installed, and it was a relatively easy process, and all it was is just a case of pop out the panel, cut out the covering, install the servo in with the screws, and slot it in. Pretty much it's as easy as that. So the manual recommended 70 centimeter long extension leads, and I have a feeling that that length is due to the fact that they intended for people to have the battery and receiver all the way up here. But as we can see, I've had my receiver installed at the back here, so I've got a heap of excess lead, which is really no drama. All I'll just end up doing is just rolling some of it up with some zip ties just to make it nice and neat. And so it was quite easy. Just a case of what I did was to get the leads down through the fuselage. I just got the clunk out from the fuel tank, and there's a little bit of tie wire there. Just wrapped it around the end of the lead there, wrapped it around, and just the weight had the fuselage on its nose, and the weight just brought it down. See, simple as that. So that's the elevator servos done. So I've essentially got most of the electronics in, so all I have to do is install the aileron servos. What I intend to do, what I have done too, before I get ahead of myself, is I've also put the landing gear on, mainly just to stop the fuselage from rolling around on the table. Now I'm just going to apologize ahead of time if you can hear any noise. It's currently raining, or raining on and off, and unfortunately every time I'm off camera the rain goes away, and then as soon as I hit record it decides to start raining. And actually about 5 minutes ago it was thunder, so hopefully no more thunder comes. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So yeah, I've put the landing gear on just purely to stop the fuselage from rolling around the table. Now what I do intend to do, now if you just give me a second, I'll just move this slightly. Move that. Now I'll move this back. Now, as I mentioned in the very first video, the kit itself requires a minimum of 6 servos, so 5 for your control surfaces and 1 for your throttle. And as mentioned, I'm using the OS GT33 engine, and it has a choke. Now, because the cowl has a dummy radial engine. Where is it? Okay, so we got the dummy radial engine here. it's going to be hard to flick the choke on and off. So what I intend to also do is try and have a small servo around here somewhere, so I can flick a switch on my radio and it'll flick the choke on and off. That is what I intend to do. So I might try to have the ignition box up here, or possibly here, or on the other side here, and I've got to mark out where the standoff mounts have to go. So if you are using like an engine like I'm using, you will need standoff mounts like this. These are the ones that are the OS engine ones. Obviously you don't have to use that particular brand. I just found it easier just to get those, and got to mark out where they have to sit in relation on the firewall here. And then I've got to work out where to put the servo for the choke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here for part 4. And now if you have any questions about the electronics, about the engine, about the kit, don't hesitate to comment down below, guys. I'll do my best to answer the questions. Hopefully it won't be too long until the next video is up. So part 5, I'm going to go on with the vertical and horizontal stabilizers, and I might even start on the wings as well. So stay tuned for that, guys, and cheers.